Rocking Entrepreneur, Episode 3.
The world has progressed because of people who didn't give a thought to fear.
Hello, fellow rock stars. I'm so excited to have Vandana Tilak here today. Vandana, are you ready to rock?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. I love that spirit. Vandana is on the advisory board and chapter chair for Akshaya Patra, which is the world's largest NGO-run midday meal program, feeding 1.4 million children across 10 states of India. She is also the president and CEO of Bombay Pictures and the director of Don't Tell Me That I Can't, that won the Best Documentary Feature Film at the Los Angeles Film and Script Festival in 2010. Welcome to the show, Vandana. I've given our fellow rock stars a brief introduction, so take your time and describe a bit more about your professional and your personal life.
Well, you pretty much summed it up in a very nice nutshell, Tushar. I like how crisp it sounds, even though it's about me and I have known me for a very long time. I'm a serial and vocationer and entrepreneur for the last 30 years that I have been here in the US. And other than being a mother for two children who are now grown up and professionals in their own way, I looked upon a career that kind of upscaled or scaled up on the concept of motherhood, which is what brought me to Akshaya Patra. It kind of resonated with how I feel about caring for other people and for making sure that my job is done on this earth before I leave. The legacy we leave often is not the legacy of wealth or material goods, but it's always the legacy of passing over some kind of love or energy that inspires or fuels the next generations.
Love the thought. So, when was the time around when you started Bombay Pictures, and how did your motherhood come into the picture?
Oh, that's a great question. I think when you really, Tushar, when you look at every single serial entrepreneurship or serial vocationer work that I have done, has always been linked to motherhood. And I think we all are mothers, whether you are a mother as a woman or a mother as a father. We always believe in nurturing the younger generations. And fathers do it differently. They coach and mentor their sons into being successful. Mothers do exactly the same. The method is different, and but in the end, the goal is still the same. So Bombay Pictures was a product of me being very bored one day with doing administrative work, running my husband's company, Almex, which we have founded together in '91. And so after he said, Vandana, I really need help. Why don't you come to the company and take over and start, with the admin part and all that. So I sat behind a desk for about 2.5 years, getting the whole company structured properly, so that hired somebody. And one fine day, I looked at my desk and I said, I just cannot do this anymore. We have hired really, really good people who are very capable of taking part in running the company. And so Friday evening at 3:00, I signed up for USC for a summer intensive course for film, and went and told Ravi that, hey, Monday onwards, I'll come only for like a few hours to make sure the transition is great. And signed up for film school and started getting into making movies. It wasn't a very brand new subject. I was always passionate about photography and still life and portraiture. I painted and, all that fun stuff. So this was just a different transition into moving pictures. And I loved it. I loved writing scripts and casting and filming it and sitting in the editing room and having seen this little baby that was just a thought actually become something on the screen. It was wonderful. So I made a few short films, and then this competition called Destination Imagination came into my head and said, wait, this is something that would be very cool to put into a documentary form, where about 160,000 children every year come together and give their own versions of a solution for a creative challenge solving competition. And Destination Imagination has been around for about 25, 30 years. So I approached them, and they loved the idea that there could be a documentary and it would be shown all over. It's available on Amazon. It's called Don't Tell Me I Can't, and it's a download. You can instantly play it. And we showed the film to many places. Pretty much everybody loved the concept. We're hoping we would take a little piece of that into the next venture that we are planning, which is for Akshaya Patra. It's called a campaign for feeding dreamers, and we're looking at partnering with Google. We have partnered with them, and with a new company that just formed called Indie.com. So we are partnering up with them where people can send in their videos and their solutions to different challenges that we will be putting out, and everything will be revolved around this concept of feeding children, feeding dreams, whether they are young or old, about nurturing and about just finding out that little tiny seed of creativity in each one of us that resonates with giving, with helping other people, whether it's yourself or with somebody on the other side of the planet.
Okay. So, did you have a model of generating revenue from the film when you started off, or that's something that you picked up on the way?
I kind of picked it up on the way. I made a lot of friends on the way. A lot of them really helped me with going and attending different meetings or conferences to locate people who bought documentaries. I met with an endless number of TV cable networks and channels, and few of my friends actually opened up their whole contact list for post-production work. Some did pro bono work. The parents helped so much, the kids who were in the film. But I don't think making money was a goal at that time. I think it was I have a great product, and let's see if somebody wants to buy it. It's not cheap, but it's a way of it's like a painting. It's just a very expensive way of making it.
Could you describe a bit more about your work with Akshaya Patra and how Akshaya Patra generates most of its fund and revenue to support all the children?
Okay, I'll go with your second part of your question first. So Akshaya Patra generates money for the midday meal program. It also generates money for other programs that the government is involved in. So basically, in 2002, the government of India had, even before that, had government schools. But the Supreme Court passed a law saying that every child in their government schools needs to be fed a midday meal. Because they just saw that children were coming to school hungry, they were not able to focus, there was no learning happening, and it was not a very nice situation when children were not thriving, not because of the education, but because the basic need was not met. So right around the same time, Akshaya Patra was created with the help of people like Madhu Pandit Dasa and the people at the ISKCON Bangalore temple. They found children and dogs were fighting over food on the street and decided this was just not okay. And their kitchens were not being utilized. So all the priests and the people at the temple started cooking every single day. CPG was here at our house the other day, and he said they used to cook 7 days a week. Every day they would go back into the kitchen in the morning and start cooking and start serving children. So slowly the word got out, and people started, the schools started calling around Bangalore and said, hey, why don't you send food to us? Why don't you send food to us? And we are getting we are getting better enrollment numbers. Children are coming to school. So it just started gathering momentum enough so that the founders said, let's do something about it. This was a cause that's very close to our hearts. Let's do something. So Madhu Pandit Dasa, who is a civil engineer from IIT, started designing kitchens. And listening to his interview in February with Narayan Murthy, pretty much it was a parallel process of growth and opportunities that came their way and challenges they both faced. Very similar. One became a humongous business, one became a humongous NGO. The scaling up and the challenges are just exactly the same as any, it was amazing to listen to both of them. So he built a kitchen, and we found somebody in Sardarji in Punjab who was making papad machines. So we told him, hey, why don't you make a roti machine? And both are not the same when you cook them, but they figured it out. And then Mrs. Sudha Murthy said, why don't you take this and make it into a much larger scale? So they built the first large kitchen in Bangalore. And then Mrs. Murthy said, why don't we do it in Hubballi, where she's from? And slowly it started spreading, where we took the government's money and added our own funds, raised our own funds and added them, and started serving hot meals to children. So the numbers, if you ask me, it's 13 cents per meal. The government provides 8 cents, and we raise the rest of the 5 cents. So now the program runs in 10 states to 10,770 schools up to a distance of 60 kilometers through 22 centralized kitchens. And recently, just last week, the CEO, Sridhar, mentioned that we just got land near Varanasi, which is Prime Minister Modi's constituency, for building a kitchen with 400,000 capacity. And that would be the largest kitchen in the world that would be cooking food for 400,000 children within 6.5 hours. And right now we are making 200,000 capacity kitchens produce food in about 4 hours. So it's double the capacity, but the hours are much more efficient. So you can imagine, now that we have this of speeding up the process, we are looking at different things that we can do with Anganwadis and different programs. But this is a very remarkable way the NGO is run. We have a overhead of about 12%. We are trying to shave it off to 10%. So hopefully the government increases the amount of money they give. We reduce the costs by even more than we can, I don't know how, but we really, really try hard to cut costs. I think Sridhar had mentioned that for every rupee that we save, not dollar, every rupee we save, we feed 30,000 more children if we do the math and go all the way down to 1 rupee. So that's how focused we are. That's how we have managed to keep scaling up, by focusing only on feeding children, by focusing on cutting our costs and improving management efficiency.
Wow, that is mind-blowing. You said every 5 cents you raise from the public and the 8 cents is from the government, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so how is the 5 cent raised, in what form?
The 5 cents is raised by a lot of corporate donors, individual donors, by the general public in India, employee matching grants. Lots of the large companies in India, especially in Bangalore, participate in this program, where they monthly 1 rupee or 10 rupees or whatever it is that the company and the people decide. So the employer matches those programs. We get a lot of help from Tatas, from almost all of the business houses, the Jindals, Infosys Foundation. We also get a lot of help from the CSR program. We qualify for the CSR, where any company over 500 crores, they are required to give 2% to charity. And we qualify for those giving programs. And then in the US, we raise 10% of the annual budget, which is only about $4 million. We raise 10%. The rest, everything comes from India.
So I know a lot of people have this myth in their mind, saying that if I donate 100 rupees, not entire of my 100 rupees is actually going to benefit the end beneficiary who I intended to who I intended the money in the first place for. Would you like to comment something on that?
Um, well, I'd never like to talk any less about other charities. All I know is that our charity at Akshaya Patra, the overheads are the lowest I have ever seen. They are about 12%, and we are cutting them down to 10. There's a lot of transmission loss. What happens when the government gives money? Sometimes the grain is not clean. It increases our costs. So basically, it's a plus and minus game that we have to be, playing every time. Schools remain closed during the summertime. We don't get money during the government won't pay because schools are closed, and what they give is always based on enrollment. So they only give to the children who are according to their attendance records. So basically, when you're talking about overheads, they fluctuate. Machinery gets depreciated, and all these different costs come. It's I say it's a business. Calling it a charity means that everybody is on their own. That's not what it is. Everybody works as a team and is very focused on doing what we do. If you look at other charities, I encourage you to go and look at their annual reports and check out ours. They are all online. All charities are required to keep it online, anyways. But more importantly, look at all the hidden costs. They are hidden away into different things. They are hidden away into different fellowships, into different programs that don't necessarily say that they are actually helping the beneficiary, but they could be for travel expenses or salaries or meals and entertainment or fundraising costs or admin costs. All of those are overheads. And for Akshaya Patra, we don't do that. We have one very single line item which says fundraising costs, and that's it. Everything goes in under there, and nothing is hidden. So it's as low as you can get as far as overheads. And when it's more than looking at numbers. If you go visit a kitchen in India, and let's just put those numbers and all those figures aside. If you just talk to any worker in the kitchen, talk to anybody who is sitting there and doing the books for Akshaya Patra in the Bangalore office, talk to any driver who is driving the trucks all the way to the schools, talk to anybody, and you'll see there's so much pride in what they're doing. You'll see that these workers, children are in the government schools. They are studying over there, and they know you can tell from what they're saying. You can tell from the way they are cooking. You can tell from their body language that they know this food is going to their kids. It's going to their own children, and then nothing needs to be said. Nothing needs this. This is all God's work that they are doing, and there is so much spiritual energy. There's so much entrepreneurial energy. There's so much thought about giving back that it all you need to go is take 2 hours when you go to India and visit any kitchen in India at Akshaya Patra kitchen, and you will know what I'm saying.
I love your answer. I think there's so much love, like you mentioned, and energy that comes from doing something so altruistic and not thinking about yourself, but thinking more about somebody else who is going to benefit. And for the fellow rock stars who always think that a non-profit does not make any money, they have to have some amount of money that goes into overhead charge, like you mentioned, to account for the fluctuations and for the demand and for the supply discrepancies, where the system can continue running as well as it is and eventually try to expand and serve more and more people to do a noble and good cause. A lot of people actually ignored that at times. So I love that you covered every aspect of that in your answer. So let's switch gears a bit at this point, and I would like to have our audience question at this point. We usually have the audience question in the rapid fire round, but this is a special one because you are a special one. Recently at the Pan IT conference, you met Jenna, and she would like you to talk more about the conversation you had with her about getting over the threshold of going out of your comfort zone and facing your fears for people out there who are trying to change fields and something based on your personal experience. Would you like to elaborate a little bit more on that?
Sure. Um, this is something I learned from my teacher. His name is Dr. D. Martini, John D. Martini. And basically, what John's work is about seeing a fear for what it is. If you look at fear, fear is an assumption that in the future, sometime in the future, there is perceived more pain than pleasure. So you don't see the other side. You don't see the fear of something unless you, in your mind, have this pre-assumption that if I do this, this is going to happen. If I climb a wall, I'm going to fall. You don't see the pleasure of doing that, of being able to climb with your own hands and knees or your arms, giving yourself the confidence that you would. And what is the assumption that you're going to fall? Fine. So what's the worst that could happen if you fall? Well, I would be dangling by a rope, and I would be scared because I would drop maybe like 2 feet. So if you look at the assumption of fear and you say that this is going to happen, the next question has to be, what if that fear came true? So if that fear came true and I fell, let's say 2 feet, and the rope caught me, what is the benefit of that? Well, I had a plan B. I had a rope tied around me, and so I didn't fall too much. But it did scare me a little bit. I had a little tug in my tummy as I fell. So then, now what is your fear? Well, I might look silly to all the people down below. Fine. So what's the benefit of that? Well, they would learn that they would be out of their comfort zone for a certain amount of time, but they would also see that I didn't fall and hurt myself. So there is always there has to be another question when you say you're scared or fearful about something. So what if that fear came true? What if that fear came true always gives you the other half of the equation. And when you go deep into that fear, you feel that you find that it is groundless. There is no reason for it because it's all your own assumption that you're going to fail. So I always tell people, what if fear was, holding you back? If there was no chance to fail, what would you do? And most of the time, people will say, I want to do this, I want to be this, I want to have this. All the bees, do's, haves that you have in your life, you don't do because they're based on some kind of preconditioning. Maybe your parents said that something would happen, your teacher said, or you read something about something that could happen. But every situation is unique, and the world has progressed because of people who didn't give a thought to fear, or they were afraid, but they did it anyways.
All right, love that. And just to add to that, I think for my fellow rock stars, just to add to what Vanda just mentioned, I believe that the best motivator is yourself, and to not rely on others. Just through meditation, you can believe you can achieve whatever you believe. So start believing that you can achieve everything, and soon you'll be doing that.
Exactly right.
Quickly switch to the few questions from the rapid fire round. So, Vanda, share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
Exercise daily, at least 3 to 4 times a week, if not daily.
Sounds great. What is the best advice you have ever received or followed?
I don't know if it can be called advice, but this uncle that I used to work with in an NGO, and I would go to him and say, "Look what I did," and he would say, "You can always do more," and that's my motto. You can always do more.
Can you share an internet application like Google Documents that helps you be more efficient at work?
We always use a lot of Google Docs, and I think I use most of the Google products. it always excites me to learn more about it. And but I think yeah, that application we love.
What book would you recommend to your fellow rock stars and why?
There's a book by Osho. His book is called The Art of Dying, and it speaks a lot about how it's not really dying; it's about the art of living, and it's a very nice history of the Hasidic Jews when the first person founded the religion, but then how it evolves. And it basically tells you about your own life, about what happens when you are born, and then things start conditioning your mind.
Okay. So that brings us to the end of our journey today. And Vandana, before we say goodbye, what's one piece of guidance that you would like to share with our rock stars and the best way to get in touch with you?
One piece of advice I would say, know yourself. Find yourself, know what you are made of. And it doesn't have to be on a ultimate spiritual level, but know yourself about what you are made of, in what your strong points are, what your weak points are, what you love doing. Do what you love and love what you do. And that's the best way to spend your life. So I am available at vandanatilak@gmail.com.
Perfect. Fellow rock stars, you can find links to everything of value we have mentioned in today's episode by going to www.repodcast.com, clicking on the podcast tab and finding Vandana in the archives, or just enter Vandana in the search bar and her show notes will pop right up. Well, thanks a lot, Vandana, for taking your valuable time out. We wish you all the best with Akshaya Patra and your future endeavors. And we hope to talk to you soon on Rocking Entrepreneur Podcast sometime again.
Thank you, Tushar. Thank you. It was very nice talking with you, and I wish you all the success with your podcasts. Have no fear. This is going to be an amazing podcast from you.
Yes, that's what I would love to hear. Thank you.
Thank you.